When Elena walks into her billionaire boss's bedroom to ask for a raise, she discovers him stepping out of the shower, but that's just the beginning of a twisted tale that will shatter everything she thought she knew about her life. What starts as an awkward encounter becomes a deadly game of secrets, lies, and betrayal that spans 12 years of deception. Hey there, romance lovers. Tonight we dive into a world where every choice has a cost and every moment matters. Shall we begin? The elevator's brass buttons felt cold under Elena's trembling finger as she pressed the penthouse floor for what might be the last time. 3 years of cleaning these marble halls, 3 years of invisible service, and today she would finally ask Marcus Kane for the raise that could save her grandmother's failing health. The morning light streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the pristine apartment that had become both her workplace and her prison. Elena moved through her routine with mechanical precision, but her heart hammered against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. She had rehearsed the words 1,000 times in the cramped studio apartment she shared with Grandma Rose, the woman who raised her after the accident that stole her parents. Mr. Kane, I've been loyal for 3 years. The performance reviews are excellent. I deserve more than minimum wage. Simple, professional, reasonable. The sound of running water stopped. Lena's breath caught as she heard footsteps approaching the bedroom door. This was it. This was her moment. She knocked softly, her knuckles barely making a sound against the mahogany. Mr. Kane, could I speak with you when you have a moment? Come in, Elena. Just give me a second. She pushed open the door, expecting to find him in his usual pressed shirt and expensive suit. Instead, Marcus Kane stood before her, wearing nothing but a towel, water droplets tracing paths down his chest like liquid silver, time suspended between them. His dark eyes met hers, and something raw and unguarded flickered in their depths. Elena's cheeks burned as she tried to look away, but found herself frozen by the vulnerability she glimpsed beneath his usual cold exterior. I'm sorry, she whispered, backing toward the door. I didn't mean to. Wait. His voice was rough, different from the clipped businessman's tone she knew. Don't go. Elena's hand froze on the doorknob as Marcus reached for a robe, his movements deliberate and slow. When their eyes met again, she saw something that terrified her more than any words ever could. Recognition, as if he was truly seeing her for the first time. There's something I need to tell you, Elena, Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper. Something about why I really hired you. Elena's world tilted on its axis, as Marcus's words hung between them like smoke from a dying fire. A raise she'd planned to ask for seemed suddenly insignificant compared to the storm brewing in his dark eyes. What do you mean, why you hired me? Her voice came out smaller than she intended. Marcus pulled the robe tighter around himself, but it did nothing to diminish the magnetic pull she felt toward him. Your last name isn't Martinez, is it? The question hit her like ice water. Elena's throat closed, her carefully constructed identity crumbling with 4 simple words. How did you... Your parents, Elena. The car accident 12 years ago. They weren't just any couple caught in a rainstorm. Marcus moved closer, and she could smell his cologne mixed with something dangerous. Your father was my business partner. Your mother was carrying the only copy of software code worth $50 million. The room spun around Elena as memories she'd buried deep began clawing their way to the surface. Her father's late-night phone calls, her mother's nervous energy in those final weeks, the way they'd both looked at her that last morning like they were memorizing her face. You're lying, she breathed, but even as she said it, pieces of the puzzle began clicking into place. The night they died, Elena, they were coming to meet me. That code your mother carried was stolen from Kane Industries by someone I trusted completely. Someone who betrayed everything we'd built together. Marcus's jaw clenched, and for a moment, the successful businessman disappeared, replaced by someone raw and wounded. I've spent 12 years hunting for that code, and 3 years ago, I found you. Elena backed against the wall, her legs threatening to give out. So all of this, everything was just some elaborate scheme to get close to me. At first, yes. The honesty in his voice cut through her like a blade. But Elena, somewhere along the way, something changed. Watching you work, seeing your kindness, the way you care for your grandmother. His hand reached toward her face, stopping just short of touching her cheek. I stopped looking for the code and started looking forward to your presence in my life. Tears burned Elena's eyes as the betrayal hit her full force. My grandmother. She's been sick, and I've been working for scraps while you. Elena, please let me explain. But she was already moving toward the door, her heart shattering with each step. No, I trusted you. I thought God I was such a fool. As her hand touched the doorknob, Marcus's voice stopped her cold. Your grandmother knows, Elena. She's known all along who I am. And there's something else you need to understand about the night your parents died. Elena's hand trembled as she gripped the doorknob. Marcus's revelation echoing in her mind like thunder rolling through a storm. Her grandmother had known. All this time, Grandma Rose had known exactly who Marcus Kane was, and she'd said nothing. You're wrong, Elena whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. She would never keep something like that from me. Marcus stepped closer, his presence filling the space between them with an electric tension that made her skin tingle despite her anger. Call her Elena. Ask her about the money that's been paying for her medical treatments. Ask her where it really comes from. The words hit her like physical blows. Elena thought of the mysterious insurance coverage that had appeared just as her grandmother's condition worsened. The treatments they somehow could afford on her minimum wage salary. No. She shook her head violently. You don't get to destroy my family with your lies, the code your mother stole. Marcus continued relentlessly. It wasn't random corporate espionage. She took it to protect you, Elena, because someone in my company discovered your father was planning to expose something that would have destroyed us all. Elena spun around to face him, fury and confusion warring in her chest. What are you talking about?
Right.
There was a third partner in Kane Industries. Someone who was using our legitimate software development to mask something far more sinister. Your father found out and was going to the FBI. The apartment fell silent, except for the distant hum of city traffic far below. Elena's mind raced, trying to process everything Marcus was telling her while fighting against the magnetic pull she felt toward him despite his deception. So they killed my parents to keep them quiet? The accident wasn't an accident, Elena. And the person responsible has been watching you your entire life, waiting for you to lead them to whatever evidence your parents hid before they died. A chill ran down Elena's spine as she remembered the feeling of being watched. The strange coincidences that had brought her to Marcus's employment, the way certain doors had opened to Isley in her life. Who? She demanded. Who was the third partner? Marcus's expression grew grim as he moved to the window, staring out at the city below. Someone who's been playing a very long game. Someone who's been financing your grandmother's care not out of guilt, but as insurance to keep you close and controllable. Elena's blood turned to ice as understanding dawned. Roberto, the doorman who's always been so kind to me, who asks about Grandma Rose every day. Not Roberto, Marcus said quietly. Someone much closer than that. Someone who gained your trust completely before revealing their true intentions. Before Elena could respond, the sound of footsteps in the hallway made them both freeze. A key turned in the lock, and Elena's heart stopped as she recognized the voice calling out cheerfully. Elena, dear, I brought lunch. I thought we could talk about your future with Mr. Kane. Grandma Rose stepped into the apartment, her eyes bright with an intelligence that Elena had never noticed before, carrying herself with a strength that contradicted months of supposed illness. Hello, Marcus, she said with a smile that never reached her eyes. I think it's time we told Elena everything. Elena stared at her grandmother as if seeing a stranger wearing a familiar face. The frail woman who had raised her, who had struggled to pay bills and worked multiple jobs, stood in Marcus's penthouse with the confidence of someone who belonged there. Grandma Rose. Elena's voice cracked like thin ice over deep water. Sit down, dear, Rose said gently, but there was steel beneath the kindness now. This is going to be difficult to hear. Marcus moved protectively closer to Elena, and she realized with a start that she no longer knew who to trust in this room. Her grandmother, who had lied to her for years, or the man who had manipulated his way into her life. I wasn't your father's business partner, Rose began, settling into Marcus's expensive chair as if she owned it. I was the third partner Marcus mentioned. Kane, Martinez, and Rose Industries. Elena's legs gave out, and she sank onto the couch. as her entire world reconstructed itself around this impossible truth. That's not possible. You're my grandmother. You raised me after they died. I am your grandmother, Elena. That part was never a lie. Rose's eyes softened for just a moment, before hardening again. But I'm also the person who's been orchestrating every major event in your life for the past 12 years. Marcus's voice was rough with barely contained fury. Rose, she doesn't need to know all of this. Oh, but she does, Rose replied with a smile that chilled Elena to the bone, especially since you've grown so attached to her. That wasn't part of the plan, Marcus. Elena looked between them, the truth hitting her like a physical blow. You've been working together? Both of you. This whole time? Not working together? Rose corrected. Using each other. Marcus thought he was manipulating me through you. I've been manipulating him through his guilt over your parents' death. The room fell silent except for Elena's ragged breathing. Da-da-da-da-da-da. She felt like she was drowning in lies, each revelation pulling her deeper underwater. The code your mother stole, Rose continued conversationally, wasn't just worth $50 million. It was the key to a network that could access any government database, any private financial system, any classified information in the world. Your parents didn't steal it to sell it, Elena. They stole it to destroy it. Marcus stepped forward. His hands clenched into fists. Rose, stop. She's been through enough. Has she? Rose's laugh was sharp as broken glass, because I'm just getting to the good part. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her about the choice you made the night her parents died. Elena looked at Marcus, seeing the anguish written across his features, and knew that whatever was coming would destroy whatever remained of her ability to trust anyone. What choice? Elena whispered. Marcus's voice was barely audible. The night of the storm, I got 2 phone calls. One from your father, begging me to meet him so he could hand over evidence that would expose Rose's illegal activities. And one from Rose, offering me enough money to save my dying company if I told her where your parents were going to be. The words hung in the air like smoke from a funeral pyre. Was broke, Elena. Kane Industries was failing, and I was desperate, I thought. I thought I could save the company and then find a way to protect your family afterward. His voice broke completely. I made the wrong choice. I told Rose where they would be. Elena's world shattered into a million pieces as she looked at the 2 people she had trusted most in the world. Her grandmother, who had killed her parents for money and power. Marcus, who had sold them out and then spent 3 years trying to atone by falling in love with their daughter. But Rose wasn't finished. There's one more thing you should know, Elena. The reason I've kept you alive all these years, the reason I've played the loving grandmother instead of simply eliminating the last witness to my crimes. Elena's blood turned to ice as Rose pulled a small device from her purse, her finger hovering over a red button. Marcus's penthouse isn't just his home, dear. It's been rigged with enough explosives to level half this building. And unless you do exactly what I say next, both of you are going to join your parents? Elena stared at the detonator in her grandmother's hand, the red button glowing like a tiny sun that could end everything. The woman who had sung her lullabies and bandaged her scraped knees was holding their lives, hostage with the casual indifference of someone discussing the weather. What do you want? Elena's voice was steady, despite the terror coursing through her veins. The code your parents hid before they died. I know they gave you something, Elena. A puzzle, a game, a bedtime story. That seemed innocent, but contained the key to everything I've spent 12 years searching for. Marcus moved closer to Elena, his body tense like a coiled spring ready to launch. Rose, let her go. I'll help you find what you're looking for. But Elena walks away from this. How touching, Rose said with a cold smile. The man who betrayed? Her parents now wants to play hero. But I'm afraid Elena is the only one who can access what I need. Elena's mind raced through memories of her childhood, searching for anything her parents might have left behind. Then it hit her like lightning splitting the darkness. The bedtime story her mother used to tell her about the princess who could only unlock her tower with a song that had no words. The music box, Elena breathed. Rose's eyes sharpened with predatory intensity. I knew you'd remember eventually. Your mother's jewelry box with the dancing ballerina. The melody it plays isn't just a simple tune, is it, Elena? It's binary code, Elena realized, the pieces finally falling into place. The pattern of notes, the timing, the way it sometimes skipped, it was never broken. It was programmed. Marcus looked between them, understanding dawning on his face. That's why you kept Elena alive. You needed someone who would remember the exact sequence, someone who heard it played hundreds of times as a child. Precisely. Rose's finger caressed the detonator. And now, Elena, you're going to sing me that song? Elena closed her eyes, the melody flowing through her mind like water over stones. She could see her mother winding the music box every night. The way she would hum along with the strange, haunting tune that never quite seemed to resolve properly. But as she began to hum the first few notes, Elena realized something Rose didn't know. Her mother had been brilliant enough to program the code into the music box, but she had also been loving enough to ensure that Elena could never access it alone. I need Marcus, Elena said suddenly. What? Rose's composure cracked for the first time. The song requires harmony, Grandma. Mom used to sing the melody while Dad hummed the counterpoint. That's why you could never make sense of just the music. Box alone. Elena looked at Marcus, seeing understanding and something deeper reflected in his dark eyes. She designed it so it would take two people who trusted each other completely. Rose's hand tightened on the detonator. Then sing it together. Now. Elena reached for Marcus's hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against hers as their eyes met. In that moment, surrounded by lies and betrayal and the threat of death, something pure passed between them. Not forgiveness exactly, but understanding. They had both made choices that led to tragedy, but they could choose differently now. As they began to sing together, their voices weaving the complex pattern that would unlock the code worth killing. For Elena made her decision, instead of the sequence that would give Rose everything she wanted. Elena sang the melody her mother had taught her on the very last night they were together, the real song, the one that would activate the virus. Her parents had hidden in the code the digital poison that would destroy Rose's entire network the moment it was accessed. Rose's eyes widened as she realized what was happening, her finger jamming down on the detonator just as the code completed its deadly work. But the explosion never came. Ouch. Marcus had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, 3 years of guilt driving him to plant his own insurance policy in every corner of the penthouse. The detonator in Rose's hand was a fake, the explosives long since removed and replaced with transmitters that had just sent every detail of her confession to the FBI. As federal agents burst through the penthouse doors, Elena watched her grandmother's face transform from shock to rage to something that might have been pride. You always were too clever for your own good, Rose said softly as the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Just like your mother. At the aftermath, as Elena and Marcus stood at the window watching Rose be led away, the silence between them was heavy with everything that had been broken and everything that might still be saved. I know you can't forgive me, Marcus said finally. I know I don't deserve it after what I did to your family. Turned to look at him, this complicated man who had betrayed her parents and then spent 3 years trying to atone through loving their daughter. My parents made their choice to steal that code because they believed some things are worth sacrificing everything for. Today, you made the same choice. She reached for his hand, feeling the weight of the future pressing down on them like the promise of rain before a storm. I'm not saying it will be easy. I'm not saying I can forget. But maybe we can find a way to build something real from all these broken pieces. As the sun set over the city that had witnessed so much pain and deception, Elena and Marcus stood together in the ruins of their lies, choosing love over safety, hope over certainty, and each other over the ghosts that had haunted them both. For far too long, asterisk like if this story gave you chills, comment your thoughts on the biggest plot twist. Subscribe for more emotionally intense romance stories. Share with someone who loves dramatic love stories. The end.